Guys, I hate doing stories like this, but we have to do it. And I've told you guys before, I think it's a really weird thing whenever you have parents who clearly have never missed a meal before in their lives and they turn around and starve their children. It's wrong. I'll never understand the logic in it, but let me tell you guys the story as to what happened here, okay? Now, this was in Huntsville, Alabama. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that area, but there was a preliminary autopsy of a little boy that was 3 years old by the name of Hendrix Frink. And it's a really weird name. It's Hendrix. Hendrix. And then Frink is spelled Frink. Okay. Thank you, Partially Off Grid and Homesteading. Thank you very much for that super chat. This little 3-year-old boy died in Huntsville and says that the cause of death was starvation. And that's according to testimony at Ashley Elizabeth Cantron, who was 36 years old at her preliminary hearing on Thursday. That's the mother. And from what I understand, the guy on that far side is the father. Now, there were 2 children involved in her, so I want you guys to understand that they didn't release the name of the second kid, but they released the name of the kid that is now deceased because obviously that kid is in no more danger, and that's really, really sad to say. Now, the mother, as you guys can see in court there, she is charged, along with her husband, by the name of Frederick Anthony Frink, Frink, and you can see he served in the military at one point, I guess. But he's 34 years old and she is 36 years old. So she's 2 years older than him. And they are both charged with aggravated abuse of 2 children under the age of 6. And they're also charged with 2 counts each of aggravated child abuse, which is a Class A felony. Now, police said that the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old were found at the house on Maple Ridge Boulevard on July 23rd and weighed 13 to 15 pounds. Let's put this into perspective for a moment, okay? And if you guys are watching, please click that thumbs up, share the stream, and let other people know that we're live if you guys would. And I want to say hi to everybody that is listening. If y'all would, help your boy out, man. Click that thumbs up, okay? I want you guys to understand how much a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old weighed. So let's put this into proper perspective. When my daughter was born, my daughter was about 8.5 pounds. That's relatively normal for a newborn baby to be 8.5 pounds. This is a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old that weighed 13 to 15 pounds respectively, just to put that into perspective, okay? Now, according to a report, the parents, including Ashley Catron, did not believe the doctors and tried to nourish the children with Pediasure. Emergency crews responded to a 911 call at 125 Maple Ridge Boulevard for a 3-year-old boy described as unresponsive. Now, Huntsville police said the paramedics were unable to revive the child and he passed away at the Huntsville hospital. Now, Huntsville Police Department's investigator, Jay Johnson, said that the house that they lived in, the house that they were raising children in, smelled of urine, and that the children slept in cribs with dirty sheets that were soiled by blood, urine, and feces. Please understand what I just said. Let's move on. Catron, the mother, was a stay-at-home mom while the husband worked for TVA, according to testimony. I have no idea what TVA is. We'll find that out later, but it's irrelevant to the point. Again, officials say that the 4-year-old has a long road to recovery, and investigators also testified that the couple's 4-year-old boy only weighed 15 pounds and he was delirious and incoherent when he was found. Thank you, Georgia Bob, for the super chat. Thank you very much. I definitely appreciate the support there. I have to remember what it's called because I keep getting it confused with Cash App. But thank you very much for that. He was military. Now, whether he was currently military at the time, whether he's retired, whether he was dishonorably just discharged, those details I do not know. And that might actually end up coming out in the court records, okay? The 4-year-old boy only weighed 15 pounds and was delirious and incoherent when he was found. Now that child is now in foster care and has added 10 pounds just since he's been in foster care. That absolutely means that they were starving this boy. And I've told you guys, like, if y'all want to be big, I get it. I totally understand. And I'm just saying that it's not a healthy lifestyle to have. But I'm just saying, these two look like they have never missed a meal. Now, if they know the value of sustenance, the value of food, the value of eating and fill with a full belly, why would they turn around and treat their kids like this? This is an absolute injustice, and we need to get justice. There were no previous DHR reports against this family because nobody probably saw anything, and definitely nobody said anything up until now. Now, the children's grandmother says that she was prevented from seeing the boys for 8 months before the police were involved. To me, that should have been your yellow flag or possibly even a red flag. You should have might have said something then. Now, the case will move to a grand jury, so it's going to go to trial. A prosecutor who regularly handles crimes involving children says that the condition of the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old is haunting. Frank waived his preliminary hearing Wednesday, and his case was bound over to a grand jury. He also asked the court to reduce his bond from $200,000 to between $5,000 to $30,000. He had a $200,000 bond. District Judge Patty Demos denied the bond reduction. Good choice. Denied the bond reduction request and issued a pointed order refusing the request. Although the defendant has no prior criminal history, the court finds that the nature of the offense charged, the apparent probability of conviction, and the likely sentence would contribute to a substantial risk of non-appearance. I agree. That means he'd be a flight risk. Totally understand. Defendant has 2 cases charging the offenses of aggravated child abuse. The allegations involve the starvation death of one child and the serious physical injury of another young child by starvation. Both children were in the care and custody of the defendant and were under the age of 6 years old. And I'm assuming that they're saying that because of the fact that they probably have some stricter laws based on their ages. I think it should be within the parameters of the jail to be able to starve prisoners who have starved children. Just throwing it out there. So I agree with you. But again, if you guys are watching, if you would click that thumbs up, share our stream, let other people know that we're live. So that way I don't have to remind you guys. And I want to say thank you to everybody that's already done that for me. Okay. Now, again, both children were in the care of the custody and were in care and custody of the defendant and were under the age of 6 years old. Although the defendant has no prior criminal history, the court finds that the nature of the offense charged, the apparent probability of conviction, and the likely sentence would contribute to a substantial risk of non-appearance. Therefore, the defendant's motion to reduce bond is hereby denied. And I think that's a beautiful thing, right? Especially in this case. And we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but what I'm going to do is bring my 2 news videos that I should have had over here already. Let me go ahead and move these over so I can show you guys our news videos. Let's go ahead and get this fair use going, and I'll show you guys we had a couple of news stories that popped up on the internet, okay? Federal law allows citizens to reproduce, distribute, or exhibit portions of copyrighted motion pictures, videotapes, or video discs under certain circumstances without the authorization of the copyright holder. This is called fair use. It is allowed for purposes of criticism, news reporting, teaching, and parody, which doesn't infringe of copyright under 17 U.S.C. 107. And we'll label them like that. All right, let's go ahead and get started.
I warn you that the next story contains very disturbing details. A Huntsville woman charged with starving her 2 young children, one of them to death, was in court today.
Ashley Catron and her husband, Frederick Frank, are both charged with 2 counts of aggravated abuse of a child under the age of 6. WHNT News 19's Brian Lawson was in the courtroom today to hear this disturbing case. He joins us now in the newsroom. So, Brian, what did we learn today?
No, you're right. It is a disturbing case. The parents of two young children, ages 3 and 4, are charged with starving them. The testimony we heard today suggested the couple had some issues with doctors, but it is not at all clear why that led to this kind of treatment for those kids. Huntsville Police Department investigator Jay Johnson was the only witness at Ashley Catron's preliminary hearing. He said police followed up on a call to paramedics about an unresponsive child at a home on Maple Ridge Boulevard. Madison County Assistant District Attorney Tim Douthit summed up what they found.
The testimony that came out there today is that when they showed up, the children, both of them, the 3 and the 4-year-old, were extremely emaciated. The 3-year-old had in fact been starved to death. They were both in cribs that had feces and blood and urine all about them.
Johnson testified the whole house smelled of urine. He said Catron and Frank told him after a misdiagnosis of a problem they didn't believe in doctors, so they were feeding the children Pediasure to improve their health. It didn't work.
The 3-year-old weighed, I think, 13 or 14 pounds, and the 4-year-old only weighed about 15 pounds, even though they should have been 2 or 3 times that much at this point.
Johnson testified the preliminary autopsy showed the 3-year-old died of starvation.
I prosecute a lot of child cases, a lot of dead babies, and the stuff that I have seen on this particular case is haunting, both as a person and as a father. I don't know how you could look at that and not know what's going on and not just do something.
The cases against Frank and Catron will now go to a grand jury. The charge of aggravated abuse of a child under 6 is a Class A felony. That means a conviction brings a sentence from 20 years to life in prison.
So there's the difference. That's why it's a Class A felony.
One bit of good news, the 4-year-old child taken from the home was recently released from the hospital. He's already gained 10 pounds. He's in foster care. In the newsroom, Brian Lawson,
I hope that little boy lives and thrives. This is absolutely insane. They don't believe in doctors. And apparently they don't believe in Weight Watchers. They don't believe in exercise. They don't believe in eating healthy. They don't believe in doing the right thing as parents. This is just absolutely insane. Let's go ahead and move on, man. We got a couple videos to watch.
Starved to death. That's the preliminary report from the medical examiner for a 3-year-old little boy who died nearly a month ago. Today, his mother, Ashley Catron, appeared before a judge facing charges in his death. WAFF 48's McKinley Struther was in the courtroom and has the heartbreaking details.
Walking out of court with her head held low, Ashley Catron didn't have much to say following her preliminary hearing in a child abuse case of her 2 young children.
If I could tell you why somebody was letting their kid sit in a crib and waste away to literally nothing, I wouldn't be here. I can't explain that.
According to investigators, her 3-year-old was found starved to death, dying at just 13 pounds. Her 4-year-old, the investigators said, was found fighting for his life, also well underweight at just 15 pounds.
You could literally throw the rest of the grilled cheese sandwich that you wanted to have for dinner in there and they would have eaten it.
Prosecutors with the Madison County District Attorney.
I'm not going to stop it. Let's move on.
Attorney's office adamant that Catron and her husband intentionally starved their children. There were moments, emotional moments for you in court. Is there anything that you would say to your child? It was revealed in court the children's father called 911 after his youngest child was unresponsive. When investigators walked inside the home on Maple Ridge, they say the kids were found in cribs full of urine stains, blood, and feces.
The stuff that I have seen on this particular case is haunting, both as a person and as a father. I don't know how you could look at that and not know what's going on and not just do something.
Neighbors and family reporting to authorities they had not seen the kids in months before all this unfolded. The 4-year-old, according to prosecutors, is recovering well, gaining 10 pounds in the last month.
You don't starve to death overnight. That occurred over a long period of time. It created a risk of death and in fact resulted in death in one of the kids, and both of the kids were under 6. It is a Class A felony, same as murder.
Reporting, I'm McKinley Struther, WAFF 48 News.
Y'all heard that? They said a Class A felony is on the same level as a murder. And I think it should be. Thank you, partially off-grid and homesteading, who donated $5, plus the other one that you donated in the super chat earlier, so I appreciate that. Let me also say thank you to Scholar Boy, who donated $5 in the Cash App a minute ago. So Scholar Boy, if you're listening, I want to thank you as well.
A normal 3-year-old would weigh 30 pounds. The 2 children had not seen a doctor in months. The parents shared with investigators that they did not trust doctors and did notice their children losing weight, but had been treating them with Pedialyte or Pediasure.
I'm I'm going to tell you guys something. I think this is crazy. And because of this, I don't want y'all to tell me if I'm going too far off course with this one, okay? I want you guys to tell me this. If as a physician or a doctor or a pediatrician or whoever it was, for anybody that heard these parents say, I don't believe in doctors, I'm just wondering what you guys that are watching right now. Don't y'all believe that a person should be held responsible when you hear something like that, as disturbing as that? Don't you think that it is your job and your responsibility to call CPS or to call the police or call someone and let them know, hey, this is what I just heard, and I believe that these kids might be in danger based on what they said? Because I think that a person is not in their right mind if they're talking about, I don't trust doctors. Seriously? Unless you have some type of medical training or some type of nursing degree or something like that, it just sounds awfully weird to me. And I think that that's not even a yellow flag. Like, I like to call them yellow flags and red flags. To me, that's a red flag. Somebody should have spoke up and reported that. If they didn't, shame on them. But if they did, they definitely should have. Let's go ahead and move on. Also, Jimmy D, if you're listening, thank you, Jimmy D, who just donated. And see, I like the fact that they not only donate, but then they'll share the links in the chat. So to you and Miss June Bennett and to all the people that continue to do that, man, thank you guys always for leading by example, man. I really appreciate that. For advocating for these kids. It's a rough thing to do, man. This is hard. This is hard on the soul, man, to just know there's so many kids out there suffering, okay? Let's go ahead and move on. Pedialyte is for dehydration. Thank you, not for starvation. Thank you for pointing that out to Amber in the chat. That's why we have a live chat, so you guys can call those type of things out. So I really, really appreciate that.
Just arrived to the scene of some breaking news. A death investigation is underway after a 3-year-old child was found unresponsive at a Huntsville home. He later died at the hospital.
WAAY 31's Cody Fisher just arrived at that house where that boy was found. Cody, what does it look like there now?
Well, Dan and Naja, right now, the police are still here investigating at 125 Maple Ridge Boulevard, just off of Balch Road. And just within the last 5 minutes, I actually saw some investigators go into the house. And according to the Madison County coroner, that 3-year-old boy was found inside of this home, unresponsive, and he was transported by HIMSS. And as you said, that child was pronounced dead at Huntsville Hospital Women's and Children's emergency room, inside of that emergency room. And like you said, I just got here. I'm going to be talking to investigators and trying to gather some more information. As soon as I know more, I'll let you know. Reporting live in Huntsville, Cody Fisher, WAAY 31 News.
Just arrived to the scene of some breaking news.
Let's go ahead and get to my next video here. That's 3. Let's go 4. We only got a couple more left, guys. If you guys would click that thumbs up. And what we're watching these videos for is just so you guys can kind of get a better understanding as to what happened, because some of these versions are a little more informative than others. So that's why we're looking at multiple videos.
Tonight, we begin with a breaking news update. 2 people in Huntsville are behind bars charged with aggravated child abuse. Frederick Frank and Ashley Catrun were booked into the Madison County Jail around 5:30 tonight. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Naja Sherman.
And I'm Dan Schaefer. County tax records show Frank owns the home at 125 Maple Ridge Boulevard. Huntsville police are investigating after 2 children were taken from that home by ambulance to Huntsville Hospital this afternoon. One of them, a 3-year-old boy, died in the emergency room. WAAY 31's Cody Fisher has been following this story from the beginning. He's live on Maple Ridge Boulevard speaking with the family of Frederick Frank.
Dan and Naja, just 10 minutes after the Huntsville Police Department finished their investigation here at the home, Frederick Frank's uncle pulled into the driveway, knocked on the door looking for his nephew. But his nephew was not home, and he tells me his family is in disbelief over this situation.
I'm shocked. Yep. Deeply shocked.
Ike Bailey told me he had not seen his nephew in roughly a year and had not talked to him since Christmas. But these accusations don't match the man he knows.
Just a good dad there. Love his kids.
Benjamin Johnson lived next door to Frank and Ashley Catrone for 5 years.
I'm going to point out something real quick because he said that's not the man that he knows. But I got to tell you guys this. Most of the people, and I want you guys to hear me on this, both parents are overweight. That's exactly right, Sexy Star. That's kind of my point. It's so weird. Let me point something else I don't know if you guys have actually thought about. Worked at TVA. I don't even know what TVA is. If y'all know what TVA is, where he worked there, let me know what TVA is. I have no idea. That was a sad day. I work in that ER at Women's and Children's in Huntsville. Wow. Thank you, Tina Loving. So did you actually hear about that case while you were there? Or did you actually see those kids? Because that's horrible, man. But here's where I want to call out. Here's where I want to call out the gentleman, the elder gentleman that just spoke. He said that that's not the person that he knows. And you guys have heard women say this quite a bit whenever their kids get in front of the judge. Because that's not my kid. My kid would never do nothing like that. But here's the thing. Can't you also say that about most people who murdered somebody who got caught selling drugs, somebody who raped somebody who stabbed someone? Can't you say that about most criminals before they did the criminal thing that they were convicted for? Most of those people, that's not the people that they knew. Did you guys think about that? Because I've been thinking about that for a while, and I'm just like, you know what? It's a weird thing that people come out and so-called try to defend the character of the person that, look at what the evidence that they have. Look at the cribs. Look at the living conditions. You cannot tell me that this person did not realize how nasty his house was, how emaciated those kids were, and how sick they were. You cannot tell me he did not know any better. That's just insane. And then to turn around and say, well, we don't like doctors. Come on, man. That don't make any sense. That makes no sense at all. I don't think that we need to talk about the character of somebody who has been charged and convicted. Matter of fact, let's just say it like this. In my opinion, people are guilty until proven innocent whenever the FBI or the courts bring up charges on you. If they bring up charges and say, you know what? Just Jay might have stole $1 million from this bank. And you know what? Don't talk about defending my character if that's the case. Let it play out in court. If I'm innocent after that point, then you can turn around and get on your high horse and then put that person back on that pedestal and say, this is not the person that I knew. This is not the person, the guy that I knew since a little boy. Hopefully you guys kind of understand where I'm coming from with my little rant. I'm done with my rant.
But his nephew was not home, and he tells me his family is in disbelief over this situation.
I'm shocked. Yep. Deeply shocked.
Ike Bailey told me he had not seen his nephew in roughly a year and had not talked to him since Christmas. But these accusations don't match the man he knows.
Just a good dad there. He loved his kids.
Benjamin Johnson lived next door to Frank and Ashley Catrone for 5 years. He remembers Catrone being pregnant a few years ago. He says they kept to themselves.
Very quiet, even though they were next door neighbors. We were like two ships in the night as far as our scheduling is concerned.
When he did see them, he says they were
good neighbors. Never had any issues, no disturbances. Again, that's why this is very shocking.
Other neighbors on the street tell me they rarely saw Frank and Catrone. They had not seen any children playing in the front yard and did not have any reason to believe something bad could be going on.
Now, I will give them credit for that. I don't expect for neighbors to know exactly what's going on in their neighbor's house. I'll tell you guys, I don't know what's going on in my neighbor's house where they live. You know, I can't say that if I lived in this neighborhood, I would know what's going on in their house. Now, if you see something, then I think that you're obligated to say something. But I do understand that unless there are some signs of abuse that you can actually see, something you notice, something you smell, or you notice something is off, it's not really much you can do as far as a neighbor. So that I do understand.
When I asked Frank's uncle if he thought the children in the home were not being taken care of,
Nope, have no reason to believe that.
right now we do not know the status of that second child who was taken from this home today. Right now, Huntsville police are investigating, and they told me that they will release more information as soon as their investigation is completed. Reporting live in Huntsville, Cody Fisher.
We do that a lot. We defend people that are accused or charged for a lot of bad things before we even really know what's going on until it comes out in court. And even then, we still try to defend people. But let's go ahead and wrap this up like this, guys, because like I say, you know, this is rare for me to be streaming on a Friday, and I'd like to say thank you to everybody that's here. We almost hit about 200 people, which is kind of cool. But, you know, it's, the more consistent we can get with just making sure and doing these streams on time so you guys can know when we stream, then I think it'll get a little bit better. But my work schedule is a bit busy. Let's talk about them again. First and foremost, it proves that you can look at these people and tell that they are flat out hypocrites. Okay? They have not missed a meal. They have never been starved. That's clear. So for you to have not gone through something and for you to know the difference between right and wrong, for you to turn around and wrong those children the way that you did, I think that whatever the judge gives you, you deserve. I'm glad that the judge denied reducing that bond, and she even added to it by saying, you know what, this person, based on the fact that we believe he's going to be convicted, we think that he's going to be a flight risk, and we don't want him to be able to get away and run away and go hide and duck this case because he needs to be held accountable. Now, the 3-year-old passed away. That bugs the hell out of me, you know, and I couldn't find any pictures of the little boy. And, you know, if they didn't put the pictures out there, I'm not going to try to find them. But the 4-year-old boy did survive, and they said that he put on 10 pounds pretty quick. That means that they were intentionally doing this. His body was literally trying to regenerate that quickly. So the 4-year-old boy is going to survive, and I hope that he thrives, and I hope that he becomes something better than what these 2 sorry excuses for parents did by way of him. So RIP to the little boy again. If I could do him justice by reading his name, it is Hendrix Frink. Hendrix Frink, who was 3 years old. He was the little boy that died, and apparently his sibling, who was 4 years old, did actually survive. And I hope that they have that little boy in good hands. And, you know, and I hope that, you know, that they do the right thing in this case and give them the maximum penalty under law. Okay? It's the only right thing to do. We have to get justice for these kids. They cannot speak for themselves, nor can they defend themselves. And they depend on us for every single thing that they get. And it's wrong that these 2 assholes took advantage of these innocent, sweet children, man. Okay? Thank you guys so much for listening. This is your boy DJ Just Jay. We are the AFC, the advocates for children first. Okay? Thank you guys so much for listening, man. That's the end of this stream, okay?